All right, we are live, everybody. Welcome to our Something to Chew and Talk Show episode with Armin Shafee. I'm so excited to talk to you about this topic called How Your Thoughts Create Health, Wealth, and Success. And I can't wait for you all to hear this episode. We want it to be interactive. For those of you in the live studio audience, you can actually do little clappy things in the audience or do thumbs up. We want you to be interactive. And as we go along, we're going to be asking you questions. You can have some live Q&A if you have anything come up. But I'm going to introduce Armin as we get started here. Armin is someone that I met a couple of years ago in Hollywood Hills, and I'm going to share a little bit of the story after. I don't want to share it right now because I want you to kind of get an idea of, first of all, the topic of today around how our thoughts create a reality, and how I feel like it's very serendipitous how we even met in how the thought processes I was working through at the time. But Armin is the vice president of Think and Grow Rich, but he's helped so many people build million-dollar companies. But more importantly, I feel like you help people become more of who they're meant to be. And I think that's an important concept. And I know for myself, it was like helping me overcome so many limiting beliefs that I didn't even know I had. I thought I was a big thinker. And, you know, some of the people I've seen you work with, and even in my own business, it was like realizing that magic is real in a sense, and that we do have this capacity to grow and become everything that we're meant to be. So welcome, Armin. Thank you for being here. And
Glad
I
to
would
be here.
love to kick off with just having you share a little bit of your own story of how you got into what you do, you know, building companies. You're so young still too, my goodness. But how you even came to be president or the vice president of Think and Grow Rich, how you understood the power of your thoughts and the power of your mind. I'd love for you to share the story with our audience.
Yeah, first of all, it's such an honor to be here. And I'm a big fan of your work. Inner Glow,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
100%. I think there's a joy sitting inside of all of us that if we unlock and open up, magical things happen. And so I'm back 100% of what you talk about. And I appreciate the time today. The story of how I became
Yeah.
the VP is the short version a long because it's quite a miraculous journey that doesn't make any sense. And usually the most magical things don't, just kind of happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, it doesn't make sense. Like even right now, I'm in the middle of launching something so beautiful and it just kind of happened, fell in my lap. I'm like, whoa. And so maybe we could, if we have time, we talk about the difference between distraction and guts, because sometimes people are like shiny object. I'm manifesting. Actually, no, you're not focused, but there is such a thing as being focused while manifesting in that lane. But the story of the vice president, well, I started really young. I was like 20-year-old teaching people like emotional breakthroughs. And because of that
Yes.
business, I was running these seminars like Tony Robbins style. A couple years in, I got invited to speak at an event because of that business I had, and I didn't know at the time, but the president of Think and Grow Rich was speaking there as well. And so I went
Mm-hmm.
there, and this was like the event was just really a shit show. Excuse my language, but the
That's
one
okay.
great thing that came out of it was I met Satish Verma, the president, and I saw him speak. And my dad was there the first time ever. He had never taken me anywhere else to any other event. He usually showed up to mine, but he didn't drive me anywhere. And this one day, he just decided he's going to come with me to this event. Out of the 3 other events I was going to speak at, he came to this one. And he was like so hooked on what Satish was talking about. And I'm like, I've never seen my dad like that. So I started paying attention. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, he's talking about some real stuff. And then after the event, I went up to him and I said, hey, pleasure to meet you. Maybe I can get some lunch with you sometime. I'd love to work with Think and Grow Rich. And then he stops me and he goes, no problem. He goes, by the way, the fact that you're here with your father means, shows me a lot about you. I'm like, what? And so this is, for everyone watching, there's an invisible hand that is always moving pieces in your life for you. And so in that moment, there was an invisible hand that made that happen. I didn't know that I would stand out to him because of this. So from that event, we actually ended up getting lunch. And at this event, at this lunch, my whole objective was like, how do I work with Think and Grow Rich? And I was just, I was starting up in a poor immigrant family. All I had was dreams. I didn't really know who I could become. I just thought, I'm going to be Tony Robbins. And so I sat down with him and he popped the question first. He goes, what do you want in your life? And I'm like, it's a great question. I'm going to be bigger than Tony Robbins, I told him. He goes, I said, I'm going to change the world. Here's what I do. It's called Reborn and all this stuff. And he goes, Armin, he said something to me. I started to change my life. This is the beginning of him really showing me the power of my mind. He said to me, he said, Armin, whenever we try to excel others, we always fall short. He said, never look up at someone. Never look down at someone. Always look at them eye to eye. He goes, that's every time you say Tony Robbins, you make yourself smaller. I'm like, what? Here's the guy. He's like, why don't you just be yourself? I'm like, what? This is the first time I ever heard this. Somebody telling me to be me. I'm like, no, I thought success was about what just happened? I thought
there's like magic things happen on this talk show. I don't know. I love it.
I thought success was about modeling the best people and beating them at their game. And it's like, no, he was the first person to tell me, no, you are actually enough. You don't need to be anything else. So I told him, I said, Satish, you know what? Then I want to work at Think and Grow Rich. Like I've always wanted to. And I said, what do you want? What do you need me to do? He goes, it doesn't work that way. He goes, what do you want? I said, no, what do you want? He goes, no, what do you want? I said, no. What do you want? I could do anything. I could sell, I could speak, I could market, I could train, I could do everything. What do you need? He goes, Armin, I don't want anything from you. So what do you want? And I sat there in the silence and I'm like, I don't know, I'm like, And he told me, he goes, and he said this and changed my life. He goes, Armin, if your desire is strong enough, I can't stop you. I'm like, wow. I remember sitting there, I'm thinking to myself like, vice president of Think and Grow Rich Institute. That would be really cool because he was speaking at these big events. I'm like, what if I shared stages with him? I taught the philosophy with him. But I'm like, I kind of dismissed the idea. I thought, what the hell? Like, I'm a kid. Like, there are billionaires that talk about Think and Grow Rich. There's so many more qualified people to be the president, vice president. And so I didn't do that. Instead, I was out of embarrassment. I didn't bring it up. I just said, hey, why don't I just help you sell your courses? So I did. And over the next year, I sold the Think and Grow Rich courses from the stage and I put on these big events. And then because I sold the courses, I'd sit in the class with all the people I sold and I'd be taking notes. And eventually I started to become like the star student because I was always learning and doing homework and I was reading it offside and then I'll go to the events. And eventually he's like, well, Armin always knows what he's talking about. He's like, why don't you come up and teach with me? And I started teaching the philosophy with him. And I didn't even notice what was happening. I was just becoming a student. And it was a year later when the impossible happened. He gives me a call out of nowhere. And he goes, Armin. I go, yeah. He goes, listen, what are you doing on this day? I said, nothing as of right now. He goes, well, look, I'm invited to speak at an event in Texas for a CEO conference about Think and Grow Rich. He goes, but I won't be there. I won't be available. I'm going to go to Australia to speak at an event. I said, okay. He goes, so why don't you go speak instead of me? And I said, really? He goes, yeah. I said, but Satish, who am I going to tell them I am? I'm just the kid. Like, they don't know me. They know you. He goes, just tell me the vice president of Think and Grow Rich. I said, yes, sir.
Yes.
And just like that, 1 year later, an idea in my head that I didn't even think about, but the desire was so strong and I acted on it. A year later, just fell on my lap. And since then, it's been like 5 years later now. We still work together and we do the things and we teach the philosophy. But that's how I kind of became it. I didn't make it happen. It kind of just happened, manifested.
I know, and I love that. And I feel like that's a big thing. I love Satish is just phenomenal. And that's why I often say it's the opposite of what you think, right? Because what you said about like, I want to be Tony Robbins, I want to be this, even when, for myself too, I like look up to so many people and it's like been such a lesson to me to really realize like my own power and things like that. And that's what I think you've really helped me understand too. And I think that's so important because we think that like other people have some sort of special powers that we all encapsulate. So I'm curious to like how would you explain to people, let's move to my little slide thing. How would you explain in your own words how your thoughts create your reality?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, they say thoughts are things. I just want to reframe a couple things here. Your thoughts aren't real. Thoughts are not real.
I saw your post this morning. I was like, oh, it's so good.
They're all lies. You know how I know? Last year, I was in a pretty low place and I got a coach to work with me. And this person I hold very dear to my heart. He's probably one of the most spiritual people I've met, realest people I've met. And he gave me one exercise to do that started to really make a shift for me. He told me every night and every morning, just write down all the thoughts that are coming through your mind. As soon as you wake up, write it down. And as soon as you go to bed, write it down. So I started doing that. And it was life-changing how well it worked, because what happens is you become separate from the thinking and you get to see it. And I would write stuff down
Witness,
sometimes where
observe
I'm
it.
like, yeah, I would write some stuff down sometimes. I'm like, what? Do I have to believe that? Why is that in my head? And just this morning, I woke up 5 a.m., wanted to get some deep work done, and I pulled up the notes of my thoughts. And, I do it on and off now every day. I look back at the first day I wrote my thoughts down, and I read it. And I'm like, who is this person? Today, I looked at, last year's thoughts. I'm like, I thought all this. First of all, it sounds like there's a bully sitting inside my head, dragging me around. The first thing said, I don't have time to get this done. And the second one's like, don't be a bee, just get it done. Third one's like, what if it doesn't work? Fourth one's like, no, it's going to work. You're going to do it. I'm like, whoa, what the hell is going on in this person's head? I was so shocked. And that's when I wrote the thread. I'm like, your thoughts are lies. They're not real. Like, I looked at it, I'm like, there's no way that was my thoughts in my head, but that was what was going on. Now, if I write them down, it's beautiful. Like, I look at it, I'm like, yeah, everything's good. And even then, that's not me. So the first thing we need to understand is you are not your thoughts. Now, how do thoughts become reality? Let's talk about it. First, we have to understand you're not your thoughts. They're not real. You can make them real when you start to believe them. But let me make this clear. It's a dangerous ground. The purpose of the cause of depression, cause of sadness, cause of all the negative suffering in the world is that we believe our thoughts. So if you didn't believe your thoughts, guess what? You're liberated. You're not limited. And so I sat there and I go, okay, well, what's the point of the thinking if I have to not believe them all? But there is a point to it. We have to look at thinking as a form of a river. So you have to see it as there's an endless stream, a river of thoughts, in this kind of thought energy that is going through your mind. You are one of the vessels it's going through. You cannot control your thoughts. You cannot stop your thoughts. You can't even really change your thoughts. Have you ever tried to be like, no, it's good, and then the other voice comes in, no, it's bad? Like, it's...
Yeah, I think that's what most people struggle with, and they think something, then they start going to like, something's wrong with me. I'm trying to think positively, but I'm in this negative loop. I know I went through a lot of that too, where you're almost like, then you're frustrated because you're like, oh, I can't do it. Something must be wrong with me.
Yeah, and nothing's wrong with you. You're just going crazy because you're believing in shit. That's all.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, right? We go crazy because we believe the shit that's going on in our brain. And so what do you do with your thoughts then? You direct them. No different than you're on a canoe in a river and you're just changing direction. So you decide which lane you're going down in the river. My point is, first step is to realize you are not your thoughts. Therefore, you can separate from them. Because you know how you see those movies, there's the devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other? You know how everyone will like talk about, oh, the God's trying to speak to me, the devil's trying to speep to me. And then, a lot of people will be like, the angel's actually me. The devil's the one who's trying to like rule my life. This one's actually me. Actually, you're neither. You're not the voice of God. You're not the voice of the devil. You are the head in between. I'm like, people forgot that. They're so caught up with trying to believe this side or this side, they forgot the watcher is in the middle. And so the first thing is like, yes, can your thoughts create reality? Absolutely. Whatever you start to dominate your mind on and to really think and you start acting on and believing it 100%. But if you believe your thoughts, everyone at one point has thought about killing somebody, but they haven't done it because they didn't believe it. Right? And so the real, it's not that thoughts create reality. What is it actually? Beliefs create reality. So the thinking is just, it's like a all-you-can-eat buffet of thoughts, all these ideas coming through your head, and you're like, whichever one you pick to eat is going to be the one you dominate on. So the first thing is like, it's not real. Second is, what you believe becomes real. Why? Because that's what goes to the subconscious. That's what you act on. That's what you start to emotionalize. That's what you make real. See, if I hear a thought in my head that says, you're shit, then I go, oh no, maybe I am, maybe. And I meet people like this. They just believe in all the thoughts in their head. I'm like, hold on a second. Who is hearing your shit? Oh, wait, that's me. Okay, so where did that thought come from? Oh, it's not even me. Great. So we don't even have to address it. We just put it aside. So that's the first thing, is making sure you are not your thoughts. Second is beliefs are creating it. Third, this is why meditation matters. You have to learn how to be able to have a stillness outside of all the noise in the mind. If you don't, then you will be at the mercy of the two people living inside of you. I look at it as a bad salesperson and a good salesperson. There's a negative salesperson and a positive salesperson, but they're both great at sales. One's trying to sell you, everything's bad. One's trying to sell you, everything's good, but neither one of them are right.
Mm.
And that's the thing. I said a long time ago, it was very controversial. I said, if you want to be successful, like stop accepting compliments. People are like, whoa, what the hell are you talking about? What if someone says something nice? I don't want to say thank you. I mean, no, because if you accept compliments, you also have to accept criticism, because you're still accepting someone's opinion of you. People are like, whoa. It's the same thing here. It's like, if you want to accept the good only, you're still accepting a voice that's not there, that's telling you what things are like. So you're going to accept the bad one. What is the real freedom from your thoughts? How do you really create your reality? You stop accepting both the voices, and you start to live from a conscious place, completely aware, deliberately, intentional. And you make decisions from your other self. Your other self, Napoleon Hill calls it your true self, essentially. It's the watcher of it all. I'm ranting on now.
Mm. Wow, that's amazing. And so now, okay, so now we're not our thoughts when we want something. And this is something I hear often from people. So let's say someone's in a job that they don't like. Let's say someone's been, I heard this last night on our group call, where we have someone's in a job they don't like, or someone who has said, I'm going to exercise, but they continue to fall short, and they feel like, I've worked with my thoughts. I was, and I actually even said, I said, I think there was always an underlying dominant thought or belief. Because when I got to that too, when someone was talking about, one of my clients was talking about, oh, I try working out, but, and the second she said bet, I was like, there's your dominant thought. That's actually maybe the belief, but I always fail. And so how do we follow through? You're so brilliant at following through, despite, and so many of us don't really know your inner world, but we see you've grown so much, you've built so many things, and you show up every day. But how do we become that person that is like maybe moving towards something that is more wanted, or even the concept of like believing that it's even possible for us, right? Like something like where someone's in a job, they maybe want to work on their own, they want to work for themselves, they have a dream, but they don't know how it's going to come to fruition. Where do they start there?
You must first start by waking up. How do you wake up? You have to start watching your thoughts, not being them. I'm convinced the first step of turning your life around, the turning point of every person, is the separation between them and their mind, so they can finally use the mind and not be used by it. The only thing you actually need to work on is yourself, ever. You say we show up every day. Who are you showing up for is the question. A lot of people show up, but who are they showing up for? What are they showing up for? I know the only thing that matters, every time I've had a great time in my life, I'm showing up for myself. And when I mean myself, I mean the part of me that knows, the real me that knows, am I keeping my word? Did I say what I'm going to do? Am I bullshitting myself? Am I telling myself stories? It takes an acute level of awareness and honesty and a lot of discomfort to be brutally honest with yourself. And so when I show up, I don't show up for anyone else except the watcher behind it all. For me, I go, I am living, and these voices are just there to help me. So unless they're helpful, I don't listen to them. The first thing everyone can do is write down their thoughts every morning and night and start to read those thoughts and go, does that mean, do I want to believe that? Actually, wait, where did that come from? That exercise alone will give you like a really strong control, you would say, or a grip on your own mind. From there, it's very easy to navigate your mind to give you what you want, help you get what you want in order to achieve your life goals. So if someone's in a job, for example, well, if I'm in a job and I don't like it, first of all, we have to decide what we want. Problem is, Christine, the world is made up of like everyone giving each other advice that's, you would say, unsolidified advice. Like it's not context-based. Like I don't know the person's situation. So if we take like an ingredient for a recipe that works somewhere else, but we put it into our cookbook, it might not work just because it works for us. You cannot trust what you're thinking currently. If you cannot watch your thinking and stop believing in your thoughts, then how do you know anything you're thinking is true? Anything you're thinking is right. So instead of adding, for example, more noise to the mind from what I'm saying, I'd rather everyone watching here, you go and write your thoughts down. In 7 days of doing this in a row, you look back and you'll start to yourself realize How much of it is not true? How much of it's assumption? How much of it's bullshit? And when you look at that, you go, well, I don't need these thoughts to live. What do I want? See, we can't know what we want if the thoughts are what are guiding us. The thoughts are the answer, but not in the way we think. It's not about sitting there and trying to control them. It's about separating from them. Then you look at them and go, if that's what my mind is producing, what can I do to my mind so it produces different thoughts? And that's where the action, the changes in your life come, changing your impressions, who's around you in your environment. What are you doing? Then we can know, what do we want? So before we can even know what we want, we have to free ourselves from all of the shackles and the bullshit and the limitations that our mind is putting on us, that because we've left it dormant. So the first step is just becoming extremely self-aware. Then we know, do I hate this shop really, or am I just not happy the way I'm showing up, or am I not making enough? Until we know the things definitely, like what the problem is, by separating from the thoughts so we can see through it all and just look at things for what they are, not what we think they can be. I wrote this down today. When you're constantly living in potential, you're regretting yesterday and you're selling tomorrow, but you're never living in the now. You're selling how great tomorrow's going to be, or you're regretting how great yesterday could have been. But today, where everything's happening, you're not, because that's where the thoughts live, in the tomorrow and in the yesterday.
Or maybe you're falling into that, like, I hate my job. I'd be happier if I did something else. I know this was a big thing for me when I worked in my, corporate job. I thought, oh, I'll be so much happier living what I love or living from my heart. But I am now, but I feel like it was actually quite a personal growth journey to realize how those thoughts came with me into my entrepreneurial journey. And then all of a sudden I had nobody to blame though. It was like I was blaming the boss, blaming the, environment. And then once I became an entrepreneur, it was like I had nobody else to blame. And I had to go through that personal growth of just loving that what is, in a sense.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to a 21-year-old earlier today and about, his life goals. And he goes, I think I'm entrepreneurial because I don't want a boss. I'm like, not wanting a boss and being entrepreneurial, two very different things. I'm like,
yes.
You may just not like being told what to do, but that doesn't make you an entrepreneur. Just wanted to let you know that. Secondly, I'm like, you're probably a worse boss to yourself than your current boss. And when you get into your own business, you're going to realize that you actually had a pretty good boss because you're pretty bad yourself. So I'm like, it's same mind creating the problem is not going to be the same mind that solves it. But I'll tell you this, if someone's listening and they go, I'm in a job and I really want to change my life around, no problem. First of all, your mind is already messing things up, or else how the hell else did you get here? So first is, write the thoughts down, start to watch them, observe them, realize they're not real. They're all lies. They're just trying to sell you. It's kind of weird. It's like a bunch of people are living inside you and they're all trying to sell you their idea. You take my idea, take my idea, take my idea. And you're like sitting there on the throne, like, guys, relax. Let me make a decision. But like, what are you saying? Okay, maybe that's useful. The people that go crazy in life are the ones that are sitting there thinking all of the noise is them. It's not. But the second thing is, once you have this stillness, kind of like this control over the mind, then you can step back into the mind and use it. How to use it? You start to put ideas in your mind, thoughts about exactly what you want, and you make it super clear. The extent of your success is very much dependent on the extent of the clarity of your mental picture. So you sit down and go, how clear can I see what I want? Every day, for example, I speak to myself. And as I'm speaking the things I want, I imagine the things I want. But see, this is the relationship with my mind I built, that everyone needs to learn how to develop this relationship, is that the mind is my servant, not my master. I am the master. So goes the saying, I am the captain of my soul, master of my fate, captain of my soul. How? Full awareness, living consciously. What is consciousness? Not believing in all the thoughts coming through your mind. When you have a difference, a dissonance between thoughts, my ideas, and you in this present moment, you can finally see that distance and you go, how do I use this? Not how does it use me?
I love that. And you said something really important about like you showing up for yourself. Like it's this, I think of the word integrity, building integrity with yourself, wanting to exercise, wanting to take care of yourself. That's, obviously a huge part of our client base is people that want to take care of themselves and feeling like they continue to let themselves down. So is that where they're
not letting themselves down?
Believing in a thought?
They're not letting themselves down. The thoughts are convincing them you're letting yourselves down.
Yes.
You got to stop.
Yes.
I'm telling you, this whole conversation, right? Like all conversations like this are about us believing in the shit we're hearing. Not
Yes.
true,
Yes.
right? Like it's not.
Beautiful.
So like you got to look at yourself like I'm letting who down? When someone says I let
Mm-hmm.
myself down, who's myself?
Yes.
How do you let yourself down? You made decisions and it's your decisions, but who's the one telling you? How would you even know you let yourself down? Who's measuring the stick, right? Who's comparing it to
Mhm.
what? There's a voice in your head. You're still believing it. I'm telling you, it's such a slippery
Yeah.
thing, man. But once you get it,
Yeah.
like I promise you, once you do the exercise I told you and you really get a grip on like every time that voice
Yes.
comes up, you actually start to freak out. You're like, whoa, my whole life, this thing has been trying to tell me what to think. There's
Yes. And
nothing
that's a
wrong
big
with
thing
it.
around food too, right? People really have a lot of beliefs around food that are very interesting. And we always, like, the first step we always do is like, let's dissect some of these beliefs, right? There's like so
100%.
much around, oh, I have to eat things that I don't like if I'm gonna be healthy, or and it's just like, who's saying that?
And you know what's crazy?
So I like
That's emotional, right? Like a lot of people gain weight because of emotional eating, right? So like thoughts and
that. Hmm.
emotions, what's the relationship? Well, thoughts, they don't carry emotion, but with
Yeah.
emotion, it amplifies. So if I just thought, for
Yeah.
example, I messed up, it could just be a thought that comes
Yeah.
through. When you do the exercise and you write it down, you actually see real quick, like you have those thoughts come through your mind. Like, what if it doesn't? Ah, I messed up. Trying to do that. So that thought comes, but when you're in a really strong emotional state where you feel
Hmm.
guilty, and you're thinking I
Yes.
messed up, the two together, very dangerous combination. That's when
Mhm.
that's when you're falling very far away from like reality, which is this present moment. It's you're being drowned in like the inner game of what's going on, and you believe it. First thing, crazy enough, realities are created by your belief. And the step to changing your reality is to start to disbelieve what you believe. It's really weird, but that's the answer.
Hmm. Hmm.
Disbelief is the first step to self-control, not believing in all the stuff you think. Then you realize
I
I
think,
get to choose.
yeah, I love this. And well, I read a book one time that I really appreciated about law of attraction, because sometimes I felt like, when you're trying to choose the thought, it's like you're trying to override this unwanted thought. And it was spoke about like dissolving. It was more about like just dissolve the limiting beliefs rather than efforting so much in the new one. Because when we dissolve the limits, we actually connect to our infinite self. And I was like, an infinite self is already just infinite. You don't actually have to effort. It will just come when you just dissolve. And I thought that was so fascinating. So, we've spoken about things like, when we start to form new beliefs, for example, though. So this is I'm so curious about the forming new beliefs or just dissolving the old ones and like letting things be in that allowed surrendered state, and how that comes to fruition when we think about, the resources, people, experiences showing up to match a new belief, right? I know that's been something really prominent for me, and that's where I want to share how we even met after I hear from you. But I'm curious how you would explain we dissolve the old beliefs, we're disconnected, we're meditating. Now, how do we start working on that active creation?
Well, I'll give you a new definition for law of attraction.
Yeah, let's hear it. I want to hear it.
This should answer a lot of people's frustrations with this. Have you ever felt like have you ever been in a situation where you're like law of attraction for sure, things are happening, like, ooh, that person hit me out of
Yes.
nowhere, all that stuff, of course. But then like how many times have that happened and like it led nowhere sometimes? And you're like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was something. How come I was wrong? Or something comes in,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, wait, I thought I manifested this person to do this thing. It's like dating is an easy one. Like you thought like this is the one, right? Like I met them and it was like perfect. And how come it didn't work out? So
Yeah.
for those people, I have an answer for you. So
Yeah.
back in the beginning of the year, I started using my mind every year. 30 minutes, I would just sit down and crystallize a picture in my mind, emotionalize, like visualize exactly what I want. And it was so powerful. Within like 7 days, I had the weirdest shit happening. People from my like past were calling me out of nowhere, aligned with what I'm doing, all this stuff. So like 30 days, I was just manifesting like all these unexplainable miracles, like people showing up out of
Mm-hmm.
nowhere, wanting to help me. And I was like telling myself unrealistic goals. I'm like, I'm gonna do this. And then someone would show up with a huge audience and be like, I could do that. Like, I'll do that. And I
Yes.
look back and none of them went through. Now, here's what I learned. That whole time I was confused, right? I was like, I'm doing this thing, inner work, everything, manifesting, law of attraction. And I got on the call with my coach. And I'm like, I don't get it. I manifested all of this. And none of them actually turned out what I thought they're going to be. Like all the people that wanted to partner with me didn't. This person like fell through. I didn't hit my goal. Like I kind of hit my, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, what did I do wrong? Or like, and I started to get resentful. I'm like, I did all this work. How come all the manifestations didn't manifest? It didn't achieve. And he gave me a definition. He's like, that changed my life. So I'll tell you right now. Look, he said, your manifestations are not the vehicle to getting you to where you want to go, which is what I thought. I thought I manifested this person. They're the answer now to getting to the thing I want. So I thought I was manifesting the roadmap, like the thing that's going to get me to where I want to go.
The how. Yeah.
He goes, no. Manifestation is law of attraction is just bringing you opportunities to see what you still need to work on. I said, what? And I was sitting there, I'm like, wait, so like all these things I manifested, all these partnerships, all these ideas, all the things that came in, it was just law of attraction was trying to show me what I still need to work on. Because if I don't work on that, that's what's stopping me from getting to where we're going to go. Holy shit. My entire perspective on it shifted. I stopped thinking as every little miracle as the lottery ticket towards my dreams. And I started to look at it as, oh, if I don't learn my lesson, I'm going to manifest 5 more versions of this exact situation before I learn my lesson. When I learn my lesson, I upgrade and I law of attract the next thing. So law of attraction isn't bringing us what we want. It's bringing us, it's trying to show us what's keeping us from what we want. That's what I realized. And since I made that distinction, I completely changed my approach. I grew up, I matured myself around the things I was manifesting. And right now, as I'm speaking to you, the very thing I actually envisioned in January, I have it now, but I become a new person. I become a different person. The thing I thought was those things, actually I have now. And I realized I'm like, whoa, I didn't even have to go after it. This thing came into my life and it was the actual thing, but I became the person first. So
I love that.
All your manifestations first. Right. All your manifestations are trying to help you, give you the opportunity to grow yourself. So you become aligned with the very thing you want. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I think that's a really good point too, because it's kind of like, well, I know Michael Bernard Beckwith has a really good sort of stages of consciousness that he talks about, where the stage 1 is the victim consciousness and stage 2 is this manifestor consciousness, where we think that, oh, my thoughts create my reality and I can create all these things. And we get these experiences that sort of showcase that. But he said the next level is, well, he calls it surrender consciousness, which is just which I think is almost letting go, and it's the becoming. It's that like, it's the becoming where it just is. Whereas I think in manifestor consciousness, we're wanting it. We're wanting it. And it's like, so things start to show up, but we're not in that, like that level of like, just it's done. Does that resonate for you?
I got a
like
cool way to actually put it. I had a friend of mine tell me about this. Like the lowest level of consciousness is everything is happening to me.
To me. Yeah. Victim consciousness.
Right. The next level of consciousness is everything is happening by me. It's the ego consciousness. I'm going to make it happen. The third level of consciousness is everything is happening through me, which is the surrender. Like it's coming to me. The highest level of consciousness is everything is happening as me. I am all.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Really cool way to look at it. But yeah, 100%. I think I for sure lived in the everything's happening by me level of consciousness for a long time. I think that's the achievers consciousness. The victim, helpless people, like, I mean, we already know that. But I think you get stuck there and you start to really think like you are everything. But through me is the uncomfortable one, especially for the achievers, because you start to realize.
Yeah, you have to let go of some things.
And I actually read this. I read this the other day. It was very beautiful. It's like you actually achieve nothing. Like nothing is actually your achievement. And this guy explained it. And I'm like, you're right. You don't actually achieve anything. Like there's just an illusion that you're achieving things. Those are byproducts of things you've done. They're not your achievements. Like they're given to you no matter but you just put in the input and the universe's work is the output. The output is it's not your actual responsibility. It's not your choice. Like I could do all the right things and still not make money in something. So the output is not our job, but the ego likes to make us that voice likes to convince us. It's it's bad. That's your fault. It's good. That's your fault. Like both are yours. No. It's just, that's trying to find life within you. If you actually put it aside and you go, no, none of it's me. The only thing I control is my choices and what I do is my input, my deposits, my payouts are not for mine to choose. Then you really start living in surrenderance. Michael Singer is a great example of that.
Yeah. Wow. And so let's say someone wants to earn more money. How do their thoughts play? Add more value.
Become a value.
And then
valuable.
that's so beautiful. And I remember even Ryan saying this to me too. He was like, serve more people. It was like always serve more people. And I feel like so many people get stuck in, they want more money, but they don't. It's almost like that. It's like you want it for yourself, right? It becomes this like, I want it for myself versus you showing up to serve is such a different energy than getting more money.
Because Christine, how can a person focus on service when they have so many of their own problems? So service starts with yourself. So like, there's no one way to look at it, but I'll tell you this, hands down, the very first thing, the very first block between you and where you want to be right now is you believe your thoughts, and you have to stop.
Yeah.
Good or bad. And you know what this vicious cycle is the ones who believe the good. So they rile themselves up and they're like, yes, I am amazing. And I'm like, yeah, that's called maybe self-confidence, but it's based on no foundation. It's not it's based on lies. Eventually that turns into egotism. You will just lose everything you built. How many people I've met? There's like 4 people I've talked to this past week that have made millions and lost millions, literally. Same exact trap. So what's the point if you make the millions and then you lose it? So the first thing is you have to become aware, awaken yourself to the fact that none of your thoughts or the voices are real. Then you have full control. You go, okay, now what do I want? Well, turning your life around is simple. If you want to make more money, first make money up here. In your mind, you go, I want this. Start to make that the dominating thought of your mind. When you separate from all the bullshit, you go, listen, mind, I need you to think about money all the time now because I want to make some. Well, the first thing you're going to realize is the blocks you have towards doing that. Now, if I just told you to go the extra mile, find someone and go out of their way to help them, you might not be valuable. You might also have a lot of fear of criticism. What would they think? So what's the first thing you do? Go the extra mile for yourself. Do the very thing, the hard thing that you've been pushing off for yourself. Then you start to change the trajectory of your life, becoming a type of person that could do more for others. Do more for yourself first. Go on the walk that you haven't done. Stop being lazy. Stop eating that extra piece of thing that you know you shouldn't eat. Go to the gym, maybe walk for a little while. Just do something for yourself. Any small amount of change and doing more for yourself gives you instant confidence and hope in your own abilities. So if you just sit and you go, you know what the fastest path to life change is? Fastest path. Proven, guaranteed. I've done it multiple times now and I'm documenting it at this point so I can make a course around it. Fastest path. Do hard things that are good for you. It's the most instant, shortest path from you feeling down to you feeling up. Find something hard that's good for you and do it. Any form of a hard thing you have to do that's good for you, it will give you an instant spike of self-respect. And that respect starts to grow quickly in the garden of your mind. It starts going, oh, I'm better than I thought I was. I'm good. I could do this. It builds belief so quickly. Do something hard you've been pushing off that's good for you. Anything. Because when your actions, by the way, the answer is actions, not your thoughts or beliefs. Actions is the strongest impression on your mind. Whatever your mind is watching you do is going to reflect very quickly on how you think and feel. Yeah.
So I love that. I love how it all comes back to you, right? It's like you take care of you. And I found that too in my own business. It's like when I am, trying to like do things in my business and then I lose my self-care, lose my thing. It's almost like it's just this mirror reflection of nothing working out. We've had these conversations even about like on a sales call, somebody's excuse that comes up on a sales call is your own excuse. It's like this mirror. And so the more you just keep embodying your own self-love and self-care. And that's why I'm so passionate about too with the food and the exercise, because all those things, it's like raising your vibrational state.
100%.
And that's where we kind of call in things that maybe we don't even, and that's a question I have, because I have some people that when we talk about goals or dreams, a lot of people don't actually have goals.
They do. You know what it is? To fix their problems, because all they're conscious about is their problems. Most people's goals are just solutions to problems that are bothering them. That's really all it is. If you want to make money, it's because you're broke. Usually it's because you have financial issues. You want to lose weight, it's because you're not happy with your body. If you want love, it's because you're lonely.
Right.
All of our goals, I call it the negative goal setting era. Most of the world, 98%, is they're setting goals, really just trying to find solutions to get peace of mind because they're not happy. Now, when you fix everything in your life, which there is such a thing, by the way, you go into the surplus living. Surplus means you have more than you need. You don't have problems. So now you start to really think about vision. Like you really think like, what can I do? And it's almost debatable that until you really fix all your own problems, you'll never genuinely, wholly, completely be of service to people. Now, I'm not saying you can't be that off the bat. There are people that just renounce all their stuff. But if you're living in a world where you're actually attached to wanting money, having things, don't pretend like you're, a renounced Buddhist. Like you're not, right? So like you have to be owning the fact that I want to make money. I want to do this. I want to do that and work at it. Step one, I'm going to give 8 steps. Everyone want to hear the 8 steps for succeeding literally anything in your life?
Yes.
I got 8 steps. I'm going to give it to you guys right now. Give me a second. I'm going to pull this up.
Let's hear it.
I put down these 8 steps. Yeah. For me, I'm just like, this is all we need. Okay. I'm going to pull it out of my thing.
I'm curious, everybody, give a little round of applause if you're loving Armin's chat so far. And you're welcome to type in any questions too. If there's anything particular in your own world that you want some support with.
There's actually people watching. I don't see anything.
Yeah. Do you see the little hands coming up? There's little hands coming up right now. I love it.
That. Very cool. Very cool. All right. I'm going to pull up these notes. Hold on a second. I shared this with someone. I was on a call. I was having a great conversation with an entrepreneur, and this like just downloaded into me. I'm like, wow, this is actually everything that you need in order to build a successful life. Like pretty much to do anything you set your mind to. And I just want to be clear. I think the first like 6 steps are actually what you need. The last 2 are the bonuses. Like how do you go even past that? Hold on, Sam.
I love this whole conversation. I wanted to bring in too. I had spoke to, have you heard of Russell Simmons? He's the founder of the, he's like the big Jam Records or whatever. He's a good friend of mine in Bali, but I asked him at my retreat last year, he came and spoke with some of my ladies that had come on the retreat, and I don't know, it's like a several $100 million company, Jam Records, and he's written books on conscious entrepreneurship and all this stuff. And I was like, what's your biggest advice on how to build something that's so unfathomable for so many people, right? Like hundreds of millions of dollars. And he goes, need nothing, want nothing. Like he just said, I just loved what I did. He said for most of his like earlier career, he's like, we did it for free. We did it because we loved it. It was just out of love and not needing anything. And you become like, it's like this magnetic forces to wealth was just creation and service and love.
And I wish 98% of the world could do that, but they can't because they got a lot of problems.
That's right.
So the people who are in a place where they need nothing, want nothing, they should be helping those people fix their problems so that those people can reach a place where they need nothing, want nothing. I think the biggest, one of the biggest causes of suffering, especially in the entrepreneurial world too, is how many people are in denial. Like they're trying to be something they're not. They're trying to think that way when their life doesn't let them. Rather than they go, I'm positive, but you're really fucking not. Like your life is crap. Right? So real change in life starts with honesty, because honesty sources from a place of true awareness. To be honest, you must see truth. To be truthful, you must be fully aware. And so that means by default, if you're being really truthful, you're aware. And if you're aware, you can only see truth. And it kills a part of your soul if you lie to yourself. And so when you come to that place, then the real honest truth becomes this. If I'm fat, I'm going to change that. If I'm broke, I'm going to change that. If my relationships are terrible, I'm going to change that. If I'm not happy with my decision in life, I'm going to change that. That's honesty. That person cannot also tell themselves at the same time, life is great. I need nothing. No, you're lying. And so it's far easier to accept what is instead of trying to play with what if. What is truth? What if is this perception? What if actually I am great? If you don't think you are, accept that, not believing the voice. I'm saying if you look at truth, you go, you know what? I'm not doing my best. That's called honesty. You go, so I'm going to start. you'd be surprised how quickly, when you decide really with your soul that you're going to change your situation, how quickly God, the universe, puts into your body this like this lightning of confidence in yourself. So there's 8 steps. Let's talk about how to
Okay,
succeed
let's
at
hear 'em.
anything. January 29, 2024. That's when I wrote this, 11:48 a.m. And I even thanked God. I'm like, thank you for this download. It was so powerful.
Yes.
I'm going to give it to you guys. Step number 1 is decision.
Mm-hmm.
Decision is the first step to all things. Deciding to not believe your thoughts, deciding to commit to an action, deciding for something. And I put here mastering commitment. That's what decision really is. It's choice, which is the only power we've been given as humans. You know the whole story with Adam and Eve? They take the bite of the apple. Before they took a bite of that apple and they saw the knowledge of good and bad, they didn't know the difference because they had no choice. That was what God was trying to say. You have no choice. You're just God. You're light. But eating the apple doesn't mean evil came into the world. I don't think I look at it that way. Metaphorically speaking, they now had choice, which means they could even choose not to believe in the very source of their creator. That's what makes you human, the power of choice, willpower. That's the only power we actually have, willpower. Everything else is secondary. So the exercise of your willpower, which is learning how to make decisions, that's how you take ownership of your life. That's how you take possession of your mind. So step number 1 is decision, which is your ability to get good at making commitments to yourself and others. Really to yourself first. I'm going to change my situation. That's a decision. That's called commitment. You stick through it now. And you build that respect. You build that kind of inner power, that inner glow that actually helps you get out of it. Step number 2.
So I want to ask a quick question about that. So this is where I actually even had the same client I'm thinking about, where she's like, I've done this, like where they think that they're going to commit and then they don't follow through. So I said, stop trying to like put almost like it was almost like stop putting the goal and start just documenting what is. I started saying, and like document your exercise. Don't say I'm going to work out this much and then feel like a failure. I was like, just start documenting your exercise. There's something less resistant. So this like commitment, I'm curious, like when you say making this decision and committing, how do we stay in that integrity of that decision?
It's not a real decision if you stop.
Got it.
When I say the word decision, I mean in your spine, you feel a shift. And usually it's when you've had enough. Unfortunately, most people wait until they really have had enough to make a serious, real decision. Commitment, the very nature of it, means you see no other option. It's over. It's done. You declare it. It's a spiritual contract you make with yourself and God. It's just not even a question if you're going to not do it anymore. So
I love that.
The people that are like, how do I make a decision? Stick to it. You haven't really decided.
They didn't really decide. Oh, that's good. That's good. I love that. That's a really good point.
I want to protect the integrity of the word decision and commitment, because we can't be downplaying like this. Like, let's not prostitute the word. That's not really decision.
That's not decision.
Right? You know, back in the day, did you know that in the 1900s, in the dictionary, the English dictionary, there was no such word as priorities? It was priority. Wow. Did you know that?
Okay.
There was no such thing, because priority, the nature of priority means there's one. It's a priority. If there's more than one, it's not a priority. But later on, you know, when everyone has to bend everything backwards to make it complicated, now we have priorities. It doesn't mean it's not a priority anymore. If 3 things are my priorities, you have no priority. You don't know what's important to you. So my point of decision is you do stay committed. So when you really make one, you'll know. It's a spiritual contract with yourself. I've made those spiritual contracts with myself, and you'll know you have not, like that voice. And again, you have to make sure that voice will show up. So if you still believe that voice, when you try to make a decision, it's going to talk you out. When you really know that's not your voice, and you go, shut up, it's done. Like, stop. There's 3 ways, by the way, to respond to that voice. And whichever personality type you have, choose that way. The first way is you can meet it with compassion. Like, hey, don't do that. Like, I'm here with you. Like, you can meet it with compassion. Like, don't discourage me. I want to do this. The second way is you could completely ignore it. It happens and you just don't even pay attention to it. You hear the voice and you're like, no. The third way is you can tell it to fuck off. Now, it depends on your personality type, whichever one works best for you. I kind of oscillate sometimes. I'll have a fuck off moment. Other times I'll be like, nope, don't even, you're not existing. Bye. Other times it will give you really motivated if you just leave. No, right? You got to treat it like a child who's like bugging you, or like First of all, that came out wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or a puppy or a dog or whatever. I don't mean speak to your kids like that. My point is,
Yeah.
it's just the noise where you go, daddy or mommy is focused right now. Don't get in my way. So real decision doesn't get unmade. Let's make sure we define that.
That's a goosebump. That's a goosebump comment.
I've had at least 4 of them so far in this interview. So catch up.
Yeah. 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 No, there has been some good ones. Yes.
So, and let's not pollute the word by allowing ourselves or the voice or other people to say, well, I decided by then. You didn't. What you did was you tried, and trying is not doing. What you really did was you flirted. And I'm talking about marriage. Real decisions are marriages. And as you can tell, there's a reflection of the world and divorce rate. Clearly, decisions are a very foreign thing now, isn't it? Because even the highest form of decision, which is marriage, 60% of the time gets unmade. So know the real value of the word. Step number 2, there's 8. Let's keep going. Step number 2 is plan. This is just the mastery of direction. A lot of people are like, I got to figure out all the details. You don't have the details. If you had details, you'd be smarter. You'd be there. You got to know your direction. That's all planning is you just have to have an aim. I don't need to know exactly where I'm going to be in 3,000 feet from now, but I need to know I'm going north, south, or west. That's all I need to know. Because along the walking of that plan, you will find out the details. So this is how. The how is just the compass. It's not the answer. The how is just the compass, not the answer. A lot of people wait until the how makes sense before they decide they want something. It's like saying, I want fire before I put in wood. And if I see fire, then I'll put in wood. No, you put in wood and you see some fire. Okay. So once you decide what you want, you just make a decision, you commit to something, you make a plan. The plan just means direction. It should be very honestly light in the beginning, especially for beginners in life that trying to just change their life around. You just sit down and go, what can I really start on? What book can I start with? Who can I talk to? Anything that's a direction in any form of poor action applied definitely has a way of becoming great action. Step number 3, action. Once you commit and you know what direction you're going to take, then you take initiative. And initiative is a leadership quality. If you lack it, you will always be a loser in life because there's no scenario where you'll ever be able to do the things that need to be done in order for you to change situations. So initiative is what we're mastering in the 3rd step. This is when we bring, and we talk about thoughts into reality. This is where you bring thoughts into form. Because now you're using your mind because you've decided with your mind what you want, where you want to go. You decided the direction. Now you use your mind and you go, I thought about what I want. I know the plan. You bring that into the real form, which is taking action. Action is the actual spiritual conversion from the non-physical to the physical. Action. It's not thinking. It's not beliefs. It's not emotion. It's action. Doing something. Even in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, there are 4 levels of desire. The lowest level, which is not even a desire, it's a wish. It just means, I think that'd be nice to have. When it becomes a desire is when you actually have a motive for it. You know what you want, you have a reason why you want it. The reason is in the thinking. When it becomes a burning desire is when you know what you want, you have a motive to get it, and you do something about it. So the only time burning desire becomes burning is when you actually take action on it. Obsessional desire is the 4th level of desire. That's when you burn all the ships and there's only one option. It's getting what you want. Most people don't make that jump, but at least at burning desire, you can get some things moving. Step number 4, conditioning.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about hair conditioning. I'm talking about mind conditioning. This is the real mastery of manifestation. Okay. This is where we put the universe in debt, paying the price. What does that mean? We want to concentrate the mind on desire. So the actual ability, the skill, the muscle of concentration is where real law of attraction starts working. Why? Because we're concentrating all the thought power in the mind into one thing, the plan and the decision we want. This is the 30 minutes a day I spent crystallizing, visualizing what I want, or the person I want to become, the life I wanted to have. I was elevating my frequency. Now imagine, what are the 3 things I did before that, before I started to go into that? Decision, plan, and action. Can you see why if you start with conditioning, it may not work? Because you're not committed to anything, you have no direction in your life, and you haven't done anything about it. So now imagine sitting there with that kind of mind and person you're being, and you're like, It's not working, Christine. I keep thinking about a raise, but it doesn't come. Hold on a second. That's fourth step. Conditioning the mind to get what you want, to help you get what you want, to start attracting things. That's step 4, not step 1. Step 5, extra mile. This is where we master real servitude, right? This is when we want to put the universe in debt. Here's where we put the universe in debt. We pay the price. So we go out of our way. My favorite definition of an extra mile is going out of our way to help people, going out of our way to do more than is expected, going out of our way though. If it's very comfortable for you, you don't care about it, it's probably not an extra mile. Oh yeah, I checked in on them. Okay. If you went out of your way to like really put in time, effort, energy, money into something to help someone out with something, and you went out of your way and that's aligned with your purpose in life, like what your desire is, that's real. People don't forget those things. So go the extra mile, step number 5. So once you've committed to what you want, you know what you want, you have a plan and direction, you start taking action towards it, you take initiative, you're concentrating your mind on what you want every single day, and you're going the extra mile, becoming a person that's always adding more value than is ever asked for. Step number 6 is faith. Faith is mastering intuition. This is, the expertise you have, Christine. Intuition. This is where we start to learn, because we've committed to something, have a plan. We're now taking action on, we're using our mind every day, concentrating on, and we're adding value to other people. All of this, now we're creating noise in our life. We're creating a lot of momentum. That's only when you can unlock faith, which is your ability to hear the hunches, hear the nudges. Only when you're forward momentum.
And trust in the unseen. You're trusting in the unseen. Like you've
Believing
decided you're going there. Like it's you're in that unknown space, right? Where you're like, I don't know how it's going to come, but I've decided I can, faith.
100%.
I love that. Okay.
But the state of mind known as faith is where you hear the nudges, the voice, like the real voice of God. You start to listen. I call it speaking to God, because when my faith is like, when my mind is like faith in state of faith, I can hear things, not the voices. I can feel the gut. I'm like, I know what to do. I kind of know. And you get better and better. By the way, for those of you watching, give yourself time. You get better over time. Like when you first start, it's going to be like a dark room. You're like, none of this works. No, like a year from now, you're going to start to feel really this difference between what's true and what's not within you. That's intuition. So it takes time. So that's number 6, which is mastering intuition, learning how to listen to the nudges so that you're directed by the invisible hand. Step number 7, by the way, if you just do those 6 steps, you're going to see your life completely change. Like you'll be a whole different person within like 4 weeks. It's weird how fast it works. There's 2 more extra steps where you accumulate power. So number 7 is power. Once you're a person who's committed to what you want, you're decisive, you're definite. You have a direction, you're taking action towards it, you're conditioning the mind, you're going out of your way to help people and adding value, and you know how to listen to nudges. You have all this happening. What power is your ability to now organize effort, develop a mastermind. Because you're a type of person where people actually want to work with now and mastermind with. Now, what is a mastermind? It's organized effort towards a definite goal. So that's when you start to learn, because your mind's conditioned, you're a type of person that's successful, you're going to start attracting other really good people because you're going to be that kind of person. That's when you bring people together. That's what I'm doing now. I have all these extraordinary, brilliant people around me, and I'm organizing them into a plan so we could build something together, so we can do 100 times more together than 10 times more alone. And the 8th step is integrity. The 8th step is how you don't mess it all up. That's how I look at it. So step 1 to 6 is how you change your life. Step number 7 is how you become extremely wealthy. It's organizing people to help you with achieving more, masterminding. And step number 8 is how you don't mess up what you built, which is integrity. This is mastering the golden rule. Never doing what you wouldn't want done to you, and always doing the right thing when no one's watching. This is operating through spirit and creating a better world. This is where you start developing the spiritual leadership. Integrity is everything. When no one's around, what are you doing? Is that the right thing? So I look at these 8 steps right here. I look at these 8 steps as like, honestly, A to Z, like holy grail, like all of Think and Rich for me, summed up through my personal life experience of how does a person get started and go all the way down to a year from now, they're living a whole different life. That's the 8 steps.
Yeah, that's so incredible. And I think that's a perfect segue, because I wanted to share even just how I came to meet you and my own thought processes. And I had, so 3 or 4 years ago when I moved out to the island and was in tens of thousands of dollars in debt, was really a lot of despair. And I went back to these tools because a lot of the inner work tools are what I coach people through, but was not living them in my own integrity. And I had to go back and do my own work. And I started meditating. And I moved out here. Most people don't realize this, that I moved out to the island with no online course, no way of even paying my rent that month. And I went in full faith. And I just started meditating, and I started dissolving my thoughts. I was in a lot of fear and and that's why I also love other tools like the breath work and these other things and fasting. And but I sat there and I was meditating, and I just kept feeling into just infinite. And I remember specifically, and that's when I started working with Ryan Blair, who wrote the book Rock Bottom to Rock Star, for those of you who don't know him. And I followed his journey too. And I just started to believe, that maybe more was possible. But in particular, and I started working with him and starting to become of service and doing a lot of the same principles that Armin's sharing. I was starting to take care of myself, lead with integrity, start offering something of service. I started bringing in more income. I was paying bills. I was so excited. And I started to be like, wow, what if I decided, that's why I love what your decision is such a good word. What if I decided I could do more? I could serve bigger. And it really became this, I was really in this service based, and also I was pretending that I already had things. I was like, okay, if I'm feeling stressed about this, what would it feel like if I had, and I remember picking the number. I said, well, if we can just pick whatever number we want, I picked $100,000 a month. And I just started visualizing, and I created an audio, and I was visualizing, and I was believing that I could make $100,000 a month, not to even make it, but just to believe that it was possible to actually ease my nervous system. I just wanted my nervous system to feel like I have more than I need. I make $100,000 a month. This was my number to just feel okay in the day. It was almost my little la la land I went into in the morning. And it was within about 3 weeks that I was back at Ryan's. I meet Armin. You were helping me flip some croquettes. Remember that? With 1 a.m. or something. We're in the kitchen.
I remember.
And Armin was there volunteering. He was cousins with one of the photographers there. And everybody kept saying, oh, you got to connect with Armin. You got to connect with Armin. And then finally it was the next day, I was talking to you in the morning, and I was like, what is it you do? And he said, I help coaches get to $100,000 months in 90 days. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. And that's where I'm always the synchronicities that start to show up when you have truly decided, and in that art of becoming. And I ended up working with Armin, and my business, what I did almost more than my annual salary in 2 weeks from meeting Armin. And it blew me away because it was so real because it had visualized it, but it was also surreal in a way, because I realized that the people and resources will show up when you truly do decide. And I often say that with people that come into my own program. I'm like, you've decided you're going to lose the weight, because you can't diddle around in my program. You're going through a juice feast. You're going through things you can't not do it, kind of thing. So I feel it's always these people that have truly decided to make a transformation in their health. And I feel that's even in your coaching, it's people who have decided to go to certain levels of wealth or whatever. It's you call that out of them. But how would you describe even that? My process of even how you came into my world, where does the synchronicities of the person that shows up that you were just thinking about, what level or stage do they pop in? Is that the faith stage?
When they met me, when you met me?
When I met you, I just thought it was so, it was that mind-blowing kind of are you kidding me? This is what I've literally had an audio on my phone that I would listen to for 3 weeks. And then you're this is exactly what I help people with. I was like, what?
Yeah, that happens all the time. So remember,
Yes.
Law of attraction it's showing us more of the things that we're focusing on, but the manifestations, I want to make this clear, manifestations is when things happen, it's to show you more of what you need to do. For example, when me and you talked,
Yes.
what you're not talking
Yes.
about is how distressed you were financially and how it was a large
That's
investment to
right.
work with me and you were freaking the
Yes.
fuck out, right? Are we allowed to swear
That's
on this
right.
on the show?
Yeah, we're allowed, of course.
Okay. I haven't heard you say fuck once, so if you remember, you
Yeah,
could have
I was in that distress.
easily overlooked working with me. You could have easily moved on and you would have recreated the same 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1 vicious cycle in your life and nothing would have changed. You would have never made the amount of money you made in 2 weeks. But there was a fork in the road you reached and you had to decide who you're going to be. And that road, I remember I was still on the call and you were still crying. I remember it. And you're like, this is 70% of all the cash I have. And I'm like, I understand.
Like literally.
And you have to decide now if you think you're better off with 70% less money, but with me helping you versus not. You have to make that decision. And you're like, fuck it, let's go. Within 2 weeks, we obviously, 10x it. So my point is to you, that fork in the road, that's decision.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Now you started earlier, you're like, here's what I want. I know what I want. Maybe you can say before decision is desire. No problem. Step 0.
Yes.
Which is some form of
I love that.
But decision is when you decide I'm going to change who I am. That's real commitment. Is I'm going to do this. I'm going to be different. And then you created the plan. We created the plan together. And then you took action.
Yes. And I took action. I did the things. Yes. And that was a big thing because I think a lot of people.
You did all the inner work. I didn't tell you, but I did do a lot of mindset stuff with you. And then what? You went the extra mile. You went out of your way. You helped all these people on the extra mile. They wanted to pay you. They kept paying you and paying you and paying you. And then you got good at the nudges. Now,
that's right.
Where was the learning lesson for you? 7 and 8. At least back then, I look at it. Power of the mastermind. Honestly, I was still learning that stuff at the time. So power of mastermind. How do we bring people in? We work together. Then we build something huge. We get a team going. That's the best thing.
Yes.
But so everything
and that support, the support is so important in any growth pattern, I think, too, is to have that support.
Yeah. So like, here's the thing that it's not going to be comfortable. So like changing your life, just make sure, like, here's what commitment means. If it was easy, you wouldn't need commitment. It's going to be hard. And that's why I said the fastest path to self-image, going through the roof, self-respect is find a hard thing you're pushing off that's good for you and do it. Because if you don't get into the habit of doing hard things that's good for you, you just won't be able to actually make any real decisions in your life because none of it you'll take yourself seriously. You'll go, yeah, I'm going to lose weight. You're not. You're going to try and then tell yourself why you couldn't. That's what you're really saying. But if you went out today and just forget about losing weight, what if you're like, I'm going to go for a run and I hate running? All right, great. Well, I did that. When you come back, you're going to have one extra brownie point. Holy crap, I did that hard thing and I hate it, but it was good for me. Then you start going respect. Now you're becoming more of a person that can actually commit to the journey of weight loss, the journey of transformation. So
yes.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I love that. That's a great way to close off. And we have a your offer too for anybody that I know, particularly my entrepreneurial friends. Can you share a little bit of what you do offer for your services? I know we have this link here from you with the School of Influence.
Yes, it is pretty much a Think and Grow Rich school, but we teach a lot of sales and offer stuff and appointment setting. So anything that pretty much money-making skill. But for anyone who's loves this conversation, wants to put into practice, wants to learn how to, in their job and their business, to make more money as well, we teach you all the skills around influence, persuasion, sales, confidence, and the power of the mind. There's some of the best, all my personal greatest hits around transformation in the mind is sitting inside the school, and it's literally only $97. And so for the $97, you go in there and you get access to a call once a month with me. You get the entire course around how to make money, how to own your mind, how to change your life around with Think and Grow Rich. And you get a community as well of other people doing the same thing.
Which is an insane value.
You know,
that's incredible.
It was nothing less than like 5 figures to work with me.
Exactly. And but well worth it. You know, it's funny. Like, I also find that, you know, when you're ready to, like, if you spend the 5 figures, you show up as a 5-figure person. Like, you have to show up differently. And I think that was one of my biggest things too, was like, okay, no more screwing around. It was dropping my own victim story. I think we can navigate a little bit back and forth between the consciousness, right? And I think I was just I was definitely done. It's done.
100%.
I'm ready to show up as everything I'm meant to be. So I love this. This is definitely for you. I know I have several people in my world that are trying to get little entrepreneurial, and not even little, but entrepreneurial endeavors off the ground. And this is definitely, I would say, one of the best resources you could possibly get into. We'll be sending it out in an email as well for everybody. And curious if anybody has any you can post in the chat if you have any major, one of your favorite takeaways or anything you want to share. We'll give you a minute to post something. That's what I would love to see. Oh, we got Jill on the call too. Love it.
I'm
Ashley's here too. Love it.
Hey.
Yeah, Jill, this will be amazing for you too. But yeah, but this has been absolutely awesome. I miss you. I was excited to do this interview because I get to hang out with you for an hour without crying for once. That's the thing too. I think as you're growing, I love what you said about being honest with yourself. And there were so many moments that I would just have to like be so real with myself about where I was really at. And I think even Jim Carrey talks about depression is like you're tired of wearing the mask of who you think you're trying to be. And I was trying to be Miss Happy, positive, everything's great, and it wasn't. And you helped me move through a lot of those phases through my own, stories going on in my head. So,
and just remember, truth cannot be seen without awareness. So the first step is awareness. And awareness is pointless if it was easy things to become aware of. It's usually the things you're avoiding. Like, can I share with you something real personal? Like,
yeah,
like
sure,
literally a breakthrough I've had in the last 24 hours. Super recent.
Sure.
Funny enough, like I'm vice president of Think and Grow Rich. I work with Satish for so long. Only recently, this is my first time actually announcing this publicly to you. Only recently did I realize, what if even Think and Grow Rich has become a limitation for me? I really considered it. And so I'm trying to give it an example of what real self-awareness is. Like self-awareness to the level where you question things I'd never questioned. I've never questioned my relationship with Think and Grow Rich or the president and, Satish, but for so long, I've known myself to be someone who's trying to sell their stuff, trying to work with them, try to partner with them, try to, because I always have my business and their business, and we try to, and recently I'm just like, what if I'm just not supposed to? What if I'm supposed to be mentored by them? And I love that. And I always promote their stuff, but I don't have to do business with them. And for me, that's a huge breakthrough. Because for 6 years now, since that lunch I had with Satish, I always had this idea that I'm going to be a business partner with them. And I've always sold their stuff. That's my partnership. But I thought I was going to be something like Armin is Think and Grow Rich. I'm like, no, Armin's Armin. So it's so crazy. Back then, the very person that tried to help me see myself beyond Tony Robbins, stop limiting yourself. I limited myself to now Think and Grow Rich because of that. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, I'm aware enough to see truth. I now think also Think and Grow Rich has become my ceiling. I'm like, what if I just don't need any of it? What if I'm great? And so real transformation is stop questioning how great am I and start telling yourself, look how great I am. And so it's crazy because the very person I'm saying, my mentor, Satish, he helped me become this way. And now I'm like, I think I'm ready to even grow beyond that. And what I mean is I'm still me my mentor, but I honestly don't even care about Think and Grow Rich anymore. I'm like, I am Think and Grow Rich. That's the point. That's the point of the philosophy. I don't need anything. Everything needs me. Not arrogantly. You know what I mean? And I sat there, I'm like, whoa. So I'm just telling you, it's like a 24-hour breakthrough because just recently I look back, I'm like, am I still trying to force something that's not there because I want that? I'm like, I could just be Armin and let Armin become the best Armin in the world. So my message to you is, and I'm talking about truth. Truth comes from extreme self-awareness. And extreme self-awareness means you're looking into the things you've never tried to look into. I would never question my goals, my vision I have for TGR, but for the first time in 6 years, I question TGR's in me. I'm not in TGR. Which is a huge shift in perspective.
Anyways. Yeah, I love that. Jill says that's an incredible shared insight. Amazing. Amazing, Armin. Thank you so much for the beautiful insights. I feel like those are really, I wrote down all those, the 8 steps, and I think it's great. It's a great podcast to re-listen to and grab some of those nuggets again, because it's some really beautiful goosebump moments, I think, for a lot of people I definitely know the decision piece is a big one. Like you never really decided. And I think that like in your soul, it's like that. I think the actions are sort of like a reflection of your decisions. So,
and by the way, look how easy that makes it for you to really commit for real. Because if you look back at your whole life and go, I always made all these decisions and then I fall through. I go, hold on a second. Let's look back and reframe this. You never really committed.
yes.
Now you go, oh, wait, so I've
Yes.
never actually failed. I've never actually really started. You go, yeah, it's a way better place to start than I always committed and I
Yes.
did it. No, I never really committed. So now you get to look at yourself and go, am I ready to really commit? Like, no
Mhm.
messing around. That way you don't have a trail of failures that your voice is
Mhm.
lying to you about. Instead, you go, oh, real commitment means I never stopped. Quick
Exactly.
shift right there.
Exactly. It's kind of Yoda-ish. It's like do or do not. There is no try.
100%.
It's
Anyways.
just like, yeah, it is. I love that. Okay, amazing, my friend. Well, you have a beautiful day. Everybody give a little round of applause. Can you see the little hands going up? I love it. Thank you so much. We'll be sharing all the ways to link up with Armin in our show notes too, and make sure to direct the right people to this episode as well that needs to hear this message, because it's a lot of people that need this message. So have an
Yeah.
amazing day.
And you can find me on Instagram too, the Armin Shafee. I would love to talk to everyone. Hey, Christine, you
Yeah,
can always message me if you want to talk, I love you. Come on.
yeah, I will. I will.
See you guys.
Okay. Okay. Bye.